Good day. This is Stephen, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate the setup and use of multiple servers for remote execution of tests. First off, I'd like you to take a minute to go read this blog post. Jared has done an excellent job of explaining remote execution, and I think it's important information for you to have before I demonstrate. Go ahead, pause the video. I'll be here when you get back. All done? Good. There are a few components that we'll be using. We'll be using a storage service, which is connected to a SQL Server database, a scheduling service, which maintains a list of all the execution servers, and a connection to the storage service. You can think of this as the manager of the entire operation. One or more remote execution servers, of course, and the Test Studio client from which you'll be starting everything. In this demonstration, I'll be using several virtual machines. For the sake of space, I'll be using the same VM for my storage service, scheduling service, and as one of the execution servers. I have a second VM, which will also be another execution server, and finally there's my client on which I'm running Test Studio. I'll start here by setting up the storage and scheduling server. The web installer for Test Studio, which is what the trial version uses, is streamlined to get people up and running quickly and doesn't give access to the Customize button. If that's how you installed Test Studio, you should be able to use the Add Remove Programs control panel. Instead, I'm going to start by logging into my Telerik.com account and downloading a complete installation kit. As I get the installation started, I'll use this Customize button. This lets me add the scheduling service and the storage service to this computer. To run the storage service, of course, we need a database. If you already have a SQL Server running, you can use that. Note that the account will need to have the DB Creator role, as the Test Studio will be creating its own database. You will not need to create a database ahead of time. Also note that the storage server database won't need to have any special settings such as pagination or anything like that. I don't already have a database server, so I'm going to select this option instead. Test Studio can install SQL Server 2008 Express for me. This installation took about 5 minutes, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to watch all of it, so I'll just fast forward right through it. Okay, once that's complete, Test Studio's installation continues. At the end, it will launch both Test Studio and the scheduling server configuration tool. Since this is a brand new install for me, I'm asked to activate Test Studio and enter my license information. There's a whole other video for you to watch if this part is new to you. The scheduling server tool now needs to know where to find a storage service. Since in this demo they're on the same system, I can leave this as is with a default of localhost and the storage server's default port. If your storage server is running on a different system, you'll need to enter the name or IP address of that system where the storage server is running. Test Studio's storage service uses port 8492. Since thirdly I'm going to use this VM as an execution server, I need to start that service as well. Your Start menu now has a Telerik folder with a few new items. If we needed to come back and change the scheduling server, here's where we would do that. I'm just going to use this item here to start the execution server. It refers to itself in the system tray as the test runner, and we can open a panel to see its information. If this were a real server, instead of just a demonstration virtual machine, I'd also want to have this execution server run at startup. You'll very likely check this box. So this VM is running three things for us: the Test Studio storage service and its associated SQL Server database, the Test Studio scheduling service, and one of our execution services, also referred to as a test runner. I have here a second VM, which I'm going to use as a test runner. I already have Test Studio installed and set up, so again, we start up the execution server. Here, we need to be sure that this execution server knows where to find the scheduling server. There have been a few instances in which this button just doesn't display properly, and the test runner is acting as though the scheduling server is on this same system. If that happens to you, check this article here. I'll make sure here that the IP address of my scheduling server is correct. Note that the scheduling server uses port 8009. We're looking for a status here of connected, showing the test runner has connected with the scheduling server and is ready to accept test requests. And here I have my third VM, a client system which is running Test Studio and has my tests already prepared. Here in the project ribbon, I use the Connect button. Normally this is set to local. I'm going to change this and specify the IP address or name of my newly created scheduling server. Again, note the scheduling server is on port 8009. On the Test List ribbon, instead of using the Run List button, I'm going to select Run List remotely. Right next to it, there's also an option to schedule runs for a later time or on a reoccurring basis. Test Studio connects to the scheduling server, which knows there are 2 execution servers available, and it shows those to us. I can choose one or the other, or both. Note that the default is to distribute tests in this list across all the machines chosen. Let's zoom out a bit so we can see everything that's going on. Here in the bottom is the client system where we started the tests. In the upper right, on the green background, is the server that's just running an execution server. In the upper left, with the blue background, is the system running storage, scheduling, and execution servers. Note that there's no way to determine which tests run on each system, nor what order. It's important that each test be independent of all of the others. Once our tests are all complete, we can open the Results section of Test Studio. Our results are loaded from the storage server, and we can see all the history for all of our test runs. We can see here that a set of tests ran earlier today, with 2 of the tests failing. If we were to double-click on the failure icon, we could see details and determine the cause. Here's the run we just watched. We can see here that all our tests were successful. Remote test execution, especially when using multiple servers and when scheduled on a nightly basis, can be an extremely powerful tool for your development and testing team, something I highly recommend. As always, we have plenty of resources online for your information, and our support team is ready to assist you. Happy testing!